Rio, get up!
What should I do?
Move back!
Ah!
Shoot! Dodge left!
Left! Hey, instruct me!
Shoot! 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 She's armed, beautiful, and she'll do anything you tell her.
What? Take a shower? Not in your lifetime.
Well, almost anything. Lifeline, where words shoot speak louder than actions.
Rated M for mature.
What makes video games unique as a medium? There's only one word that comes to my mind: control. Games cannot function, cannot enact their goals of challenge and entertainment without a player's control. But how exactly does this control manifest? And what might these manifestations tell us about the positionality of our own controllable senses within wider gaming culture? The video game controller has had a long and varied history, but it seems today that its design has been largely solidified. 4 face buttons, 2 sticks, 2 shoulders and triggers. This combination is indicative of the modern controller. Whether it's Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo, they all feature the same fundamental and universal design. But is there really no more room for change? Are we really just done conceptualizing the modern controller? Do we simply look back to the past with shame at how foolish we once were, mock every imperfection, every failed experiment? In envisioning the future potential of the controller, why is it our imaginations end at the haptic? What if controllers utilized more than just a player's hands, but their eyes, or even their voice? Can we ever get past this drag on game design, as J.R. Parker calls it, and ditch the button altogether? When is our control merely symbolic, and when might it be truly embodied? Lifeline, developed by Sony Computer Entertainment and released on the PlayStation 2 in 2004, is a game you control entirely with your voice. While this game might not have been the first to incorporate a voice-based control scheme, games like Hey You Pikachu and Seaman predate it, what sets Lifeline apart is its genre, being that of an action-based survival horror. That's right, instead of having friendly chats with your pet Pikachu or pet, Seaman, Lifeline is dramatic, action-packed, and full of opportunities to explore the voice through gameplay. The narrative of Lifeline takes place in the distant future of 2029, aboard a space hotel that's been overrun with aliens. During the invasion, your unnamed male character finds himself trapped inside the hotel security room. Flipping through the cameras, he comes across Rio, a waitress at the hotel. The two decide to team up to take on the alien attackers, with the goal of escaping the spaceship alive. You guide Rio using the hotel security system, which you can interface with using your voice. Gameplay in Lifeline consists of 2 primary modes, exploration mode and combat mode. When exploring, instead of using the controller as a means of movement, you must use your voice to guide Rio where to go and what to examine. Check the vending machines.
The vending machines. Okay.
Run.
Yes.
The dispensers?
Which dispenser do you mean?
The 3rd dispenser from the left.
There's something in here. What could it be, this piece of paper? Microphone check, it says.
While exploring, you'll run into aliens which you'll need to kill to progress. Here, you must instruct Rio where to shoot and when to dodge attacks. Approach. Left eye, mouth. Red eye. Red eye. Go back. While on paper, this game seems amazingly novel, the game in reality is quite messy in both its execution and representational elements. While the controls present themselves as a seamless connection between the player and the on-screen avatar, for many players, Lifeline is an exercise in frustration, terrible voice recognition, and an astounding collection of missed opportunities and poor prioritizations. I want to focus on specifically how this game utilizes the voice and where its limitations lie. What makes Lifeline such an intriguing game to analyze, even all these years later, is how it can muddy our understanding of embodiment as it relates to player representation. In Computer Games Text Narrative and Play, Andrew Byrne discusses the avatar and the ways in which their embodiment by the player functions as its own representational system separate from the gameplay system. He says, In terms of the player-avatar relation, the player here has a dual function. In one sense, the player fuses with the avatar. Both of them are the actor. Yet in another sense, the player is like a puppeteer, pulling the character's strings, or even a kind of author, composing a sequence with a restricted language as a part of a rule-based structure of causality. Viewing a game's function as a kind of performance in which players act out and perform as the characters which they control can help us to better understand the particularly powerful embodied experiences unique to video games as a medium. But this straightforward notion of player as actor is complicated by the degrees of control separation between the player and Rio. Because the player does not control Rio haptically with their controller, but rather sonically with their voice, there is a distancing effect that hinders the player from forming that embodied representational connection with her. And because the player never views themselves as Rio, their treatment of her shifts to that of a puppeteer rather than an actor. It doesn't help that the primitive voice recognition software, combined with Rio's helplessness without direct input from the player, leads her to take on an almost submissive, pet-like role in gameplay. There's a reason I brought up the voice in virtual pet games, because Rio herself feels like a kind of virtual pet. The player can't help but want to experiment with the game's vocal recognition system, not only to get better at operating it for gameplay's sake, but also just to see what Rio will and won't respond to, how well her AI is programmed. It's the same kind of curiosity one gets from operating any new technology, which leads players to treat these virtual avatars as toys to experiment with. Speaking from my own gameplay experience, playing with Rio and testing the limits of her digital abilities was honestly more enjoyable than attempting to guide her through the game's frustrating difficulty. And it was because of this difficulty, along with the game's primitive voice recognition, that I found myself going from asking Rio to examine this or inspect that, to demanding go, stop, shoot, dodge, using as little words as possible to make sure the game understood exactly the commands I was trying to give it. It doesn't help the fact that Rio is incapable of discerning the player's vocal intensity, nor does she respond to the majority of obscenities you throw her way. It says something about Lifeline's development team that there are no programmed long-term consequences to mistreating Rio. She won't ever retaliate or threaten to abandon you, and towards the end of the game she'll still trust you no matter your previous treatment towards her. It seems instead, the developers were far more preoccupied designing skimpy outfits to wear and sexy poses for the female lead in service to the presumed male audience. Whether consciously or not, Lifeline's production has it reinforcing harmful stereotypes regarding male domination and female subservience. As the back of the box claims, your voice is her command. But even when the primary control is sensed through voice, why is it that Lifeline is so cliched in its presentation and narrative beats? While we might be able to reimagine a game's ultimate means of control, without precautions, we wind up following the same old tired and patriarchal tropes. This goes for our perspectives on embodiment as well, which also tends to focus on the masculine perspective of masculine embodied characters, while ignoring the ways in which marginalized players shake up these perspectives. As Byrne notes, on the one hand, we might choose to celebrate the unprecedented degree of participative agency allowed for the reader within the text. Yet on the other hand, there is a sense in which players merely accept and play out the roles determined for them by game texts devised by global corporations dominated by patriarchal narratives. I'd like to ask you, why is it that when imagining a game you control with your voice, this is what was created? With such a broad and versatile sense such as sound, why must that sound be used to command and direct? Lifeline was not designed with female players in mind. It's obvious to say that from a representational standpoint, but I mean it in the mechanical sense too. If you watch any kind of online playthrough with a female player, the quality of the voice detection is night and day.
That wasn't her name. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. She didn't want to drink. She was very... Morgan.
Naomi.
No, wrong name. She was really pretty. Come on, what's the name of that girl?
Naomi.
Taylor. Wrong. Your girlfriend's name. It's,
Naomi. Oh my god. Naomi.
Morgan. No, that's not it. It was 3 syllables.
Go to Gustav's room.
Jonathan's room.
Gustav's room.
Jonathan's room.
Gustav's room.
Jonathan's room.
Sent a voice message. Here we go.
Go to Gustav's room.
Gustav's room. Okay.
The more of these videos I came across, the more and more obvious it became that Lifeline's voice recognition system was programmed with solely masculine voices in mind. Why else is it that the player character, who we only get a brief glimpse of in cutscenes, is specifically gendered as male? They could have easily rewritten the story to have the player be gender neutral, so why didn't they? Perhaps we might take a queer gaming approach in tackling these questions. Queer gaming involves reimagining the fundamentals of game design that take advantage of the medium's inherent representational awkwardness. We must also consider the plethora of ways in which games are designed for certain audiences over others, and how we might aid people in navigating spaces that were not gendered for them. Lifeline, with its embodied sensory control scheme, lays bare the dominance of masculine supremacy within the wider industry. Whether it be through a lack of female representation within the medium itself, or the greater lack of consideration for female developers and players alike.
Save it for someone who cares, bimbo.
Before we end, I just want to make one thing clear. The problems I have with Lifeline are not inherent to its premise as a voice-controlled video game. Rethinking what has become so standardized as the controller was certainly not an easy task back then, nor is it now. Lifeline's commercial and critical failure in the West should not signal the death knell for the voice as a means of control. Instead, we must learn from our past mistakes and continue to push the boundaries of the look of play. It's a shame that a majority of the industry's progress in terms of game control and accessibility comes from the indie sphere, whereas the mainstream studios seem unlikely to budge on the current dominant control scheme. And as for Lifeline specifically, its issues of gendered representation in the voice, how it clearly disadvantages some users over others, these are problems that still exist within voice recognition technologies today. While these new virtual assistants are technically superior in their ability to respond to and interact with users, their existence is still plagued by expectations of female subservience and submissiveness. As Kimberly McLeod puts it, a program aspect of these digital assistants' personalities is their servitude, their willingness to attend to your every command. Alexa, Google, and Siri quickly perform tasks for users while maintaining a matter-of-fact, friendly, sometimes sassy demeanor that rarely pushes back against the user, no matter how ridiculous or abusive their demands. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Sexy pose.
What, like this?
Our beliefs surrounding control, who enacts it and who it is enacted upon, conform themselves to our long-standing and pre-existing social biases. Who gives commands and who must obey? Rethinking the controller involves rethinking control itself. Only then might we realize how little control we truly have.